Andy, we're here with, I want to welcome you to the Colorado Food Magazine. We're here at Mountain Man Micro Farms out in Franktown, Colorado. We're here with Andy McArdle. He is the mountain man of microgreens. Welcome to the Colorado Food Magazine podcast. We're going to talk about a lot of things. You know, we've been talking a little bit. You reached out to us. I did a little bit of research. Love what you're doing. It really is a great thing. And I want to talk about some of the common connections we have, how the pandemic really impacted you and what you had to do to move forward. And then also about, you mentioned you met an ambassador in Africa of Uganda as we were talking online. That's a really, really cool connection. So welcome to our podcast. So
yeah, no, I appreciate, thank you, John. I'm excited to have you guys all out to the farm and, tell you a little bit about what I do and a little more about the story behind Mountain Man.
That's what we want to do. In front of us, we're looking at this tray of assortment of microgreens. We're going to taste a little bit while we're here. That's wonderful. So tell us, how'd you get started? But before we get there, where'd you grow up?
Yeah, I grew up in Littleton, just south of Denver.
So you're local, native.
Yep. One of the few locals
the
left.
few, the proud.
Yeah. And I grew up just in the outdoors, hunting and fishing with my dad and brothers, and always liked kind of doing more hands-on work.
You were in Littleton. Was it like before? Was it like packed like it is now? Was it like more rural? Did you go up in the mountains for your hunting? What'd you do?
Yeah, I mean, when I was growing up, it was really just starting to really expand and grow. Like there's photos from our back porch when you can look out behind our house and there's nothing. But if you go to that original home I grew up in, there's thousands of homes as far as you can see
everywhere in Colorado.
Yep.
We've all experienced that.
Yeah. And then, I've just, explored the outdoors all through the mountains and, everywhere.
Of the hunting, fishing, did you have a particular favorite place to go? Did you always, bring it home and then cut it up? What'd you do?
There's so many different areas around Colorado. It's hard to really pick a true favorite, honestly, but, we've been all over. Yeah, we always, we did small game hunting, big game hunting, birds. We would always bring the animals home and process them ourselves and eat them.
The field, not farm to table, but field to table.
Yep, exactly. And and it's, I don't know, there's nothing better than, fresh venison on the table.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. A lot of our chefs, as part of our chefs, I totally agree with that. That's we've developed some great partners from the fields and the ranches and wild game and stuff like that. That's fantastic. So how many brothers and sisters you have?
I got two older brothers.
Did they teach you or did they pick on you?
A little bit of both.
That's standard family dynamics.
Yeah. But
and your dad taught you to hunt?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've been to school up in CSU doing fisheries biology and got a master's degree in it. But I was telling him the other day, I feel like I didn't learn anything from school. Everything I learned, like I'm a biologist because of what he taught us growing up. I feel
really.
Like. Yeah.
So kind of take us through a couple of trips like that. You biology. You have a master's degree. You went to CSU.
Yep.
And what was your undergrad in?
So my undergrad was in natural resource management, and then my master's, I was in fisheries biology. I actually got that in Texas, Texas A&M in Corpus Christi. I never actually really liked school. I didn't know what I was gonna do after my undergrad, and I really liked fisheries biology, and that was my favorite classes that I took. And so I was thinking I was going to double major, and I looked at that, and it was going to take, I think, 3 years to get another major, or I could get a master's in 2 years. So I ended up doing that. So
what makes you say that you learned everything from your dad, or you didn't learn anything from a master's degree? So you know a lot of theory. But then there's practice and reality.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is probably just how how I learn, like, sitting in a classroom, looking at a whiteboard and just listening to lecture after lecture.
Snoozing.
Yeah, falling asleep, daydreaming, looking out the window. But doing things hands-on, with my brothers and my dad. And, he was a wildlife biologist. That was his degree at
Oh, so it's in
CSU as well,
in your
actually.
blood. Oh, so
Yeah,
it's the family tree here.
Yeah, and so he taught us a lot growing up, and one of my brothers, he got into fisheries work too up in Alaska, and so.
Oh wow, you guys are mountain men.
Yeah, we like to think we are. I can never grow the best beard. I always try, but I can only go so far to make that appearance happen. But yeah, I'm working on it.
Oh, that's funny. That's great. Well, so it's really in your family DNA to be what you're doing here. And so now, I always like to find out where you grow up. Kind of like what formed you as you grow up and to do this. I mean, this is a great operation here. It's beautiful. These microgreens, it's looking really good. What is your inspiration to do this?
It kind of started out. I really started out that my inspiration to do it was I didn't know what I wanted to do, and so I really liked working with plants. I kind of developed that interest when I was going to grad school. All my work, it kind of revolved around aquaponics and fisheries, and that's when I brought in the plant side of things. And I always had fun seeing things growing from seed to a full-blown plant, and it's just neat seeing the growth every day. And so when I started this farm, I was really just looking. I was trying to figure out what to do. I liked doing it, and I kept growing it. And I needed a job, so I was encouraged to just work every day until I figured out another avenue to go, or if this kept going and this kind of just kept taking off.
Were you working a job prior to starting this?
Yeah, so
Or was it straight out of school?
Kind of. So so after grad school, or during grad school, I built a big aquaponics system for them in a greenhouse, and it was used for research and also public outreach down in South Texas. I was in Weslaco, right off the border, and so after I graduated, no one knew how to operate it or how to run it, and so they ended up giving me a job to keep doing it. And I did that for a year, and then I actually had a job offer to work for a nonprofit company that they wanted me to help them design and build aquaponic systems in the developing world. And I thought that sounded like a ton of fun and also doing something good. And so I told them, yeah, I'd take it. And that job, so this would have been spring of 2015 when they offered me the job, but the job wasn't going to start until the fall of that year. And so kind of something random. I always wanted to be a wildland firefighter too. And I had all the certifications for it. I just never did it. And so I quit my job in Texas, and I went and I fought fires in Idaho and Montana and Wyoming.
Oh, so you like to live on the edge here. I mean, number one, you're an entrepreneur. Now you're fighting fires. A little bit of danger there.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
Yeah. Need a little excitement, a little adrenaline. And
were you, what did they call the guys that jump out of the planes? Neither one of us can think of the name.
Well, now I'm drawing blanks, but I'll think of it.
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
I had another friend that did that.
That's really awesome. That's
smoke jumpers.
Yeah, smoke jumpers. Yep. And that's one thing because I loved the firefighting and working with chainsaws and just the hard work. But then it's also the aspect of you're saving people's property and
you're helping
people and that side of it was really, really cool in itself. And I was actually thinking about continuing on with that job the following summer, Um, and I was thinking of doing that the following summer because the job that was going to start in the fall ended up falling through. And so, you know, the firefighting, that's a seasonal job. And so when fall came around and the other job fell through, I was trying to figure out what to do. And I thought back to when I was in grad school, I was always looking for high value crops to grow in the aquaponic systems, and microgreens were one of them. And I knew how to grow them, and I knew you can start at really small scale. So I just started it in my basement. It was all indoors. I just had one rack, a 2-foot by 4-foot rack, maybe two lights, two T5 4-foot lights on it, and probably 4 trays. And I just planted a few things that I thought a restaurant might like. And when I was ready,
that's jumping into the unknown.
Yeah,
kind of like firefighting.
Yeah, well,
I want to talk about that, but before we get there, I'm fascinated by the smoke, not the smoke, but the firefighting part. Were there any particular moments you're like, oh,
big time? I mean, it's definitely a dangerous job, and you definitely want to make sure you know what you're doing. You got to be aware of your surroundings and know a lot about the weather and how it interacts
those
with fire.
fires can create their own weather systems.
Oh, totally. Yep. Definitely. And yeah, I mean, there are times when me and my crew were on a ridge line. Probably the spookiest moment, we were on a ridge line up in Idaho, and just super steep mountains there where we were. And we were walking the ridge line. There's a big bulldozer that came through and bulldozed the line across the ridge to stop this big fire. And we were kind of patrolling it to see if there's any little spot fires that were blowing over the line. And we came to a spot where there were a few. They're small, started by pine cones and twigs and things that blew over. So we were just kind of putting those out. And then we saw the main fire line kind of coming up the ridge. And it was really short, maybe 4 or 5 inch flame lengths, really small, low to the ground. And we had a small engine with us, and me and this other guy, we took a hose and we were going down the ridge, kind of putting the fire out as we went. And as we got down this hill, so my buddy, he had the nozzle on the hose, and I was up ahead kind of scouting the fire and seeing what it was
directing
doing.
them,
Yeah, and just seeing where the fire was. And so we're going down, and I went ahead a little bit, and then I saw the fire. It actually hooked underneath us on a ridge, a very steep ridge. And so it's not necessarily a good position to be at, because fire tends to burn uphill, and
it flanked you.
Yeah, well, at this time it wasn't terrible. Like, it was really low flame lengths. The wind was blowing downhill, so it wasn't like going up and as fast.
Yeah.
And but at the same time, it's preheating all of that unburnt fuel on the hill. And so that stuff's it's like a matchstick ready to go. And so when I saw it was underneath us, I went back up. Like, we should probably head back up to the truck and kind of get out of the spot. And we were rolling up the hose. We were in a hurry, but we weren't like, this wasn't terrible yet.
Running like
the weather was good. Like, it was okay. All of a sudden the wind shifted and it was blowing uphill. And the hillside blew up. It turned into a crown fire. The flames went up the trees. It blew right over our heads. We had to jump in we didn't even roll up the whole hose. We jumped in the engine and we floored it down the hill. And I mean, there were burning branches falling on the hood of the truck, and
holy moly.
That was a spooky one. But then that's kind of what you live for in that job like that.
The stories to laugh about later.
Yeah.
Tell at the dinner table when we're breaking bread together.
Yep.
Just like today. I mean, we talked about a lot of things, and
totally.
That's a fascinating story. That really is.
And so that, and I got hooked. Like, I loved it. That's when going back to the microgreens, I started the microgreens in the basement, but I was always thinking, like, I'll just go fight fire next summer when it comes around. I'll try this in the winter, and it'll just be something to do. But
so you started 6 years ago, and then a couple of fascinating points, and we'll talk. We'll walk through the story. But you went from you gained quite a few restaurants up to 70, you said, and then the pandemic hit, and then you went from 70 to 2 overnight. I want to walk through your mindset, overcoming, and then fast forward to today. You're better off.
Yeah.
From your perspective. So let's start with you. Started with 4. Let's start with there.
Yeah. I mean, I started with 4. I went to a restaurant in Castle Rock. They loved it. And they asked me for like a W-9 and all this stuff, and I, you know, I wasn't like an official business yet. I didn't have an LLC or anything formed, and I was like, oh yeah, I've got one of those. And I went home
like, what's a W-9?
yeah. I went home and I'm like, geez, how do I gotta set this up. Luckily, it only takes 15 minutes to create an actual LLC and get your tax ID and all that. And I did that night, and I emailed it to him the same day. And I always wondered if he actually looked at the date on it that said that it was formed that day.
He probably did.
Yeah.
He just has to, make sure the processes of accounting are done correctly.
Yeah, definitely. And but yeah, and then from then I just went to another restaurant, and then another restaurant, and then I had 2 racks and 3 racks and 4 racks, and then I think I managed to cram like 15 or 20 racks in the basement, and I had all these lights and everything. I mean, I had electricians out and blowing fuses, and then I expanded out of the basement into a small warehouse up in Lakewood. And then about a year later, I filled that place up. I got a bigger warehouse. I maxed that one out, and then I was gonna go to a third one, but the rent was just astronomical for the size that I was hoping to get.
Yeah. I'm not filing for nonprofit status. I need to make some money.
Yeah. And so then I kind of started looking at like, well, if it costs that much to rent, like I could probably afford to buy some land and build on it, and it'd be cheaper at the end of the day, and I'd own it, than to rent. And so I managed to find some land and then got this greenhouse built on it. And I think that was about 2 years to get that all worked out. And then 2020 rolled around, January, super exciting.
You think you're gonna okay, I made it.
Yeah, I was like, I finally made it. Like, I'm not in a dark dungeness warehouse growing this stuff. I'm outdoors in the greenhouse.
Country out here.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And restaurants were booming, and when restaurants are booming, I'm booming, and I'm like, we're gonna have a great summer, a great year. And that was January of 2020, and then March, I think it was March or April.
Yeah, March, yes.
Yeah.
Seared into everybody's mind.
Yeah. I've got PTSD from that week for sure, because I was getting phone calls, text messages, emails, all within it was like a 12-hour period when I went from 70 something restaurants to 2, and I had this entire greenhouse just filled with microgreens ready to go, but everyone was canceling their orders and shutting down, and I thought it was game over.
Well, that's got the huge psychological impact of that. Just especially, was it just you? Was there anybody?
Yeah.
Do you have employees at this point?
No, I didn't. It was just me. So,
but still, you're standing alone.
Yeah.
What type of support systems do you have?
I had a girlfriend. Now she's my wife at this time.
Okay, something move forward.
So
positive.
she kind of helped me get through it, and then my family too. They all live out here, and they encouraged me. They're like, everything will be okay. Everyone was probably like, it's not going to be.
So you had a great support system.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, great.
But I mean, I'll be honest, like that first week, I mean, I was curled up under my desk trying to figure out what I was going to do.
Much like rest of the world.
Yeah. And I kind of got lucky though, because I sensed it coming before all the main closures happened with restaurants, because I saw it with hotel restaurants first, kind of slowing down and cutting back. And I'm like, this isn't good. It's going to go to everybody. And so I made this video, just explaining to the public that, anybody can buy the stuff. It's it's super highly nutritious, really dense food that's really good for you and flavorful. And it's not just a garnish for a restaurant. Like anybody can eat it and you'll love it. and and I posted that. It was either the day before, the day of, or the day after the restaurants closed, and the video went viral.
Oh, nice.
I think it was. I think now, well, today it's got just under 10,000 views, I think, and that, like, I immediately started getting tons and tons of orders through my website for home deliveries, and there are people ordering it that didn't have a clue what a microgreen was, but they were just trying to help support me, which was amazing. And I tried to teach them what they are and have them.
Oh, what a great story.
And and so almost immediately after restaurants closed, I was able to at least get enough out the door to keep paying the bills and kind of break even
Well,
for that first year.
But you, as an entrepreneur, as a person, you're looking out here at the great unknown. Like, what do I need to do? I mean, apparently you did some thinking underneath that desk.
Yeah.
Curled up trying to figure it out.
I don't know. A lot of it was just, I mean, it wasn't even me. It was just word of mouth. Like, just everyone.
You did something. Yeah, great. People want to support the community. People that are farmers, microgreen here. That's a great story. That's very heartwarming. People's like reaching out to do that. That's really good.
And there's still people to this day that started ordering every week from that week forward, they're still getting it to this day. Like they never canceled. They're still getting stuff from me, which is amazing.
Oh, that's pretty cool. That's very nice. So you went from 70 to 2.
Yeah.
Then you obviously did this video went viral, which is great news.
Yep.
Good for you. And now you're coming out. Now we're starting the whole world, the restaurant community is coming out of the pandemic and opening things up. So now you've expanded into a major supermarket.
So I work with some Whole Foods markets. I work with 8 of them now, kind of all the way from Colorado Springs up into Boulder. There's a few dotted all along the way. That was a whole process in itself.
It is. It's
They require a lot of stuff. A lot of it, everyone benefits from it. It's all good stuff, really. It just, a lot of it's food safety things, obviously. Of course, and and they're really helping out on that end. And then let's talk restaurants
about exactly. Let's talk. And speaking of that, it rolls to the next point you're talking about. We have some. How did you find us? Let's talk about that. Because I found that fascinating.
I mean, I've been seeing you guys everywhere. All of a sudden on Instagram, I use Instagram a lot with kind of some of my social media marketing stuff, and you guys started popping up there all the time with going out to restaurants like you saw Chef Zuri out in Shanahan's restaurant in the Tech Center area.
Shout out to Chef Zuri.
Yeah, he's a great chef. I've worked with him in a few different places, and it was really cool to see your interview with him and Nasio up in Denver. I've worked with those guys for years, and they've been amazing to watch their brand and businesses grow.
Oh yeah, they're incredible chefs. Chef Luis, Chef Omar, and the management there. Yeah, they've been great supporters of us. I mean, we love supporting them. They're both of those and all the other restaurants, from Biota to I could go on and on about all the restaurants. It's been great. So that's a common connection. That's great. And once I talked to them about you, they're like, "Oh yeah, he's great." So then when you called me, I didn't know too much about you, but once you called me, I called them. You know how it works.
Sure. Well, and that's what's why I'm really excited to be able to share this stuff with you guys and where it comes from. Like we work to the restaurants today. I mean, now I haven't had time to count them all lately, but it's 80 to 90 restaurants that I'm working with today. And
that's amazing.
And so many people eat this stuff that have no idea where it comes from, let alone that it's grown right here.
I want to talk about
yeah.
that. We're going to taste this little
Yeah.
beautiful tray here, but I want to talk about what's I just met her just right before.
Oh, Veronica.
Veronica. I saw her packaging stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's an integral part of your team.
Yeah, definitely.
And so I saw her clipping everything up and put it in the little boxes for shipment out there.
Yeah.
So, and then I saw some alpacas out there. Like we'll talk to them. You said they're almost like animals.
Oh, they're
not animals. They are animals. I'm sorry, pets.
It's funny, a lot of people, they want to buy a house. I bought a greenhouse. Some people want a dog. I got an alpaca, and they're interesting animals. One of them's literally like my dog. She'll come when I whistle, and I can pet her, and she'll follow me around. But,
oh, really?
Yeah. Yep.
That's kind of funny. So let's talk about what do we have in here?
Yeah. So this is just a living tray of microgreens. And
what's this one right here?
So that's Pea Shoots. Yep.
Pea Shoots, and I can eat it?
Oh, yeah. You can eat all of these. I actually, the majority of what I sell to restaurants actually goes in the live trays just like this. So it literally can't be fresher. The chefs cut it just before they put it on the plate. And
you're sending a tray out?
Oh, yeah. Yep. A lot of them will get it very, exactly like this. And
really? What's this one?
That's nasturtium. So that one packs a punch, like super flavorful. So it's very spicy and sweet. It's got a kick to it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's flavorful.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Oh my.
And then
then talk about levels.
Yeah.
I mean it flows through there. Okay, what's this one right here?
So these are spicy as well. So these are two different varieties
I'm
of
kind of
radish.
a wuss. So, okay, let's go over here.
And your peas, parsley. You got parsley right there. And then the next one over, that's a red streaked Mizuna Mustard. And then
these are quite flavorful.
Yeah, very flavorful.
This is unrehearsed. I did not know any of this for the audience listening.
Yeah, this is your first sampling.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And there's some mustards that are they're almost wasabi like flavors. And then there's kind of a new one on the far right there. That's a variety of cilantro. It's called Confetti Cilantro. It's kind of got a unique looking leaf. It doesn't have that cilantro leaf, but it's got a nice cilantro flavor if you like it.
I'm going to have to get you in front of the Chefs Association. These are incredible. So, wow. Anyway, that's cool. That's really good.
Yeah, yeah. And that's the thing. They're not just a garnish. They go really well with a lot of
They add
feels.
A flavor profile that I
Totally.
did not expect. But
yeah.
It really does. That's pretty amazing.
Yep.
So, wow. So this is fascinating. We'll definitely talk to some of our chefs about using some of this stuff and some of their demos and stuff like that. But we have such talented chefs. Oh
yeah.
Zudi and
it's amazing
Nessia.
how many in Colorado, how many amazing chefs there are. Before I started this business, I never paid attention to restaurants, and I didn't know anything about them. I didn't realize there's so many chef-driven restaurants with this high caliber chef. I mean, it's amazing.
We recognize it, and that's part of our platform at the Hispanic Restaurant Association, Hispanic Chefs Association. We're going to be coming out with we have been doing our Latin Supper Club, which is really a fine food brand to educate and elevate the chef and tell the world about their talents.
Yeah.
And so it's pretty amazing. And so, wow. And also in your journey, you were talking about some product, what is it? It's called a nonprofit that sometimes when you have extra that you give to, that they really help the mission.
Yep. So I recently started working with We Don't Waste, a nonprofit up in Denver, and it's really cool. If I ever have extra product that,
like saying somebody cancels an order, they don't need as much.
Yep.
You don't want to throw it away.
Yeah. Orders are always changing, and sometimes I have a little too much, and I can only eat so much myself, and so I found them up in Denver, and it's pretty amazing. I can just bring them all my extra produce, and like last month, we did just under 1,000 servings that were donated to them, which is pretty cool. And so it's cool because now I can say that we don't waste.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Another story along those lines that I was fascinated with was you were in an airport helping somebody, and you met the Ugandan ambassador. So let's
Yeah.
let's walk through that story. That's another fascinating part of your particular journey.
Yeah. So, you know, when I started Mountain Man Micro Farms, I ended up partnering up with the nonprofit aquaponic company that I was supposed to get a full-time job with. Now I'm just kind of part-time consultant helper on the side, helping design and build these aquaponic systems with them. And we were actually in an airport in Amsterdam, flying over to Uganda in East Africa, and we were in this little like sky lounge room, just sitting there waiting for our flight, and talking about fisheries biology and aquaculture and aquaponics. And this guy he was sitting directly behind me, and he turned around and he's like, "Oh, you're going to Uganda to do fisheries work?" And we're like, yeah, we're hoping to build this stuff and help help bring more food to some of these communities that are really struggling. And turns out he's the ambassador to Uganda, and this was probably 3 or 4 years ago. And now, he's backing our whole nonprofit, and he's helping us. He's got land that he's giving us to use, and a big building to work out of. And so we're going to be, hopefully in the coming year or so, we'll be digging out a bunch of big ponds for tilapia farms out there, and also building some aquaponic systems. And yeah, just kind of really getting things going on the ground. It's
That's
really
cool.
neat. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, that's wow. So you, like the chefs. I mean, you're an entrepreneur. You're always the firefighting you did. You're always willing to serve and help others. It sounds like it. Basically,
Yeah,
that's part of
totally.
your DNA. So,
Yeah.
how did you become that way? Was it your dad, your inspiration? Was it you just always looking to serve humanity or the community?
I don't know. I don't know where it came along. It just kind of it was just kind of meeting different connections in grad school that were doing some of this work that I realized, like, there's potential that you can really help a lot of people doing it. And it just kind of kept building up for me.
Was there a moment when you had like an epiphany?
I think it was it was really when I started first talking to the nonprofit aquaponic group. Their name is Targeted Aquaponic Growth. Before I forget, but yeah, they're telling me, I'd never left the United States really, or and been to a true third world, developing country, and seen how, the poverty and the lack of, good food and clean water, and how far they got to hike just to get to water. And after going to Africa the first time, and really seeing it, I mean, that totally changed my mindset on everything. I mean, people think we've got problems in the United States, but we have no problems. I mean, it's crazy, how much so many people around the world do struggle with just surviving every day.
And you're doing your part to make it better.
I hope so. I hope to be able to do more. A portion of the home deliveries that go out, I donate that back to that nonprofit every year, to try to help them best I can on that end, on top of
you can really
them.
help people more when you're succeeding and doing well. That gives you better resources to give to somebody else.
No, that's very true, and that's actually one thing that I was talking with kind of one of my mentors about. And you can't really help, you got to help yourself before you can help others a lot of times, because if you can't take care of yourself and get things going for you, then I mean,
right, that's called self-leadership, leadership 101.
Yep.
Are you disciplined? Are you going to get out of bed to be the best version of yourself?
Totally.
Before you can do that for others.
Yeah, and with that, I'm I don't know, like I don't really look at this like a job. It's I enjoy to do it every day, and whether it's just helping a chef get really fresh produce to their table to work with and get really good food to our communities, or helping people in Africa or wherever, or just donating to the
What
shelters
was your?
here.
It was something local produce with a global purpose. What
Yep.
was that?
Yeah, local produce, global purpose. And that I kind of started that tagline when I first started the farm, and we were really trying to work with Uganda and get things going.
Well, that is a great story. But it sounds like you have entrepreneurship in your DNA. You live it on the edge, and like, you know what? If I can make my own way, but let's bring a lot of people along. You have some great leadership skills in helping others and using your skill set to improve others. What would you consider a good leader? I always ask this question, and
That's a good um, you know, I think it's just being able to see you need to be able to see everyone's perspective on things, and you don't want to have tunnel vision and think like your way is the only way, or everything. I sometimes people will call me up and want to consult with me on different things, and I hate that word because I don't feel like I know everything. Like I never will know everything, and so you need to make sure that you're being observant and of everything, of other people's perspectives on things, to make sure you can really work with people well, and also just do whatever you're doing the best you can, because my way usually isn't the best way, I've learned.
yeah, no, I understand that.
Yeah.
I could just, I'm going to use this as an example. We can, I always tell people, I use the window pane theory, or the Johari window, if you want to get technical from a theory from graduate school, is we all looking out this direction here. And then let's do a 30-second, let's memorize everything. And you and I are going to come away from two completely different perspectives, looking at the same area.
Yeah.
And that's great. I mean, that's a great. I like the way you think about that.
Yeah.
So, what does the future hold for Mountain Man?
Well, I just want to keep growing as much of these as I can for our local restaurants and grocery stores, and everyone that wants to try them. I'm hoping to expand into other types of produce. I've got just under 10 acres here, and I want to start doing more in-ground farming and more in-ground crops like radishes, and do peppers and tomatoes and different more unique things outside as well, that I can provide people. And then I just started doing edible flowers as well, which is kind of a fun one. And I'm hoping to get some culinary mushrooms going here at the farm as well, over the next year, and just kind of broaden the product
base,
list
the
a little
foundation.
bit. And then with that, the more, like I was saying, you can't help yourself until you help yourself. You can't help others. And the bigger I can get this, the more that I'll be able to devote to helping targeted aquaponic growth and their work in Uganda and Africa, and trying to make an actual difference in someone's lives out there.
Nice. I did notice one thing, and I always look for this. There's a lot of attention to detail here, and that I call that excellence. And the attention to detail, the path to excellence, the micro decisions. I know these are micro. And talk to me about, how did you learn that, and where did you learn that, and why do you do that?
That's a great question too. I mean, it's definitely a very detailed operation. When I want to make sure that I'm offering the highest quality products that I can, and no matter how big or small. And I've seen along the ways it gets tough. If you have just 3 trays you're growing, they always look perfect. But honestly, I don't even know how many trays there are growing right now, but
Hundreds.
yeah, I mean, I think it's right around 1,000
Oh,
at the moment,
I was
and
off.
it and and it took some tweaking and to the operation to try to keep the quality up, um, and make sure that you're paying as much attention to everything. And with how I do everything in here, from the germination side to growing in the greenhouse, every single tray of microgreens that's growing, it gets looked at least once a day, individually, um, along the process, from whether you're planting that tray or checking it in germination every day to see if it's ready for the greenhouse, or watering. We water every tray individually with a hose, and if the product isn't to where I want it, then I don't want to. Even if there's some people, a lot of people think it looks pretty good, like nothing's wrong with it, but I don't want to. I don't feel good about bringing it to some of our chefs. I want to make sure it's perfect, and so um, it's just kind of a little perfectionism, I guess.
Oh, that's great. As in pursuit of excellence. And that's
Yeah,
first thing I noticed when I walked in was how clean everything was, how orderly everything was. And then I was observing from afar. She didn't know I was doing it, for the detail in what she was cutting
yeah,
and packing and everything else. And the same thing out here in the greenhouse. So that's
yeah.
I just finished a book called "Be So Good They Can't Ignore You," and the craftsmanship of what you're developing here is personifies that. And that's great. And that's why after our research and talking to you and everything else, I love what you're doing out here. We'll do what we can to get your stuff out there. We'll use this, obviously, our mediums to tell your story. That's why we do this. Somebody that's wants to help and help themselves and help people to the left and right of themselves and be better, and also help the community in general. And so what do you have for us?
I mean, I'm just happy that you guys are out here. I love what you're doing, and I want to keep spreading the word on what you guys do too. Um, like I said, I just started seeing you guys everywhere, and I've watched a ton of your podcasts, and it's really neat to learn the stories behind, it's not just like a menu and a table and the white tablecloth. There's a lot more to a restaurant than just that. The chef and where they get their inspiration and where their ingredients come from, and
Right.
why they do what they do. I think
I know.
it's really cool.
Exactly. I think I think, once again, I don't know, but is we're going all the way to the farms. And we had the Bean Summit last. That was a rock star event. The chefs pulled it off. They made beans sexy, and they did. It was a beautiful event, and they just knocked it out of the park. And all the agriculture committee, everybody said that. And same thing here. And we just want to help you. We'll do our best to get the word out. And
Thank you.
and do everything we can to help you. And we'll put your stuff in front of the chefs. I mean, it really was flavorful. But
No, I really appreciate it. And yeah, if anyone listening, wants to come out and sample some stuff or get a tour of the farm, they're more than welcome to.
so how
reach
would they
out.
do that?
Well, I've got Instagram. They can go on there and message me, or the website. It's just mtmanfarms.com. And if you're just a homeowner that wants these on your table every night with your family, you can order them online there. Or if you're a chef, just feel free to reach out to me, email me, or call me, and I'll be happy to bring you a sample sometime and talk to you more about what we can do. We grow over 40 something varieties of microgreens and edible flowers now, and yeah, only expanding the list more and more as the chefs give me more ideas, really. So, yeah.
Well, thank you for having us out. It's a privilege and honor to come out here to see such a great operation. And it really is a beautiful thing. I appreciate everything you've done, because I know how hard it is to be an entrepreneur and just overcoming, adapt, improvise, and overcome. You did that. So,
No, thank you very much. Thanks for helping me share some of my story.
you're welcome. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.